Good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime Series of the Medium, where it's proudly powered by Leadership by Design, leading the charge with insights, information, and ultimately effective results. Joining me in today's marketing and communications, or at least marketing and leadership segment, the marketing and communications expert and co-host, Craig Paisley. How are you doing, Craig?
Kevin, I'm great. Yeah, good to be chatting again. And I must tell you that based on this weather outside, I would really like to be doing this show from the swimming pool, to tell the truth.
Yeah, I was driving home and I couldn't hold the steering wheel. I was like going, how did we land on the sun this morning? I was at 6 this morning. It was 24 degrees. I was like, what the hell's happening? But
yesterday in the afternoon, I was driving to another meeting. It was 37 degrees. It was like, wow, bring it on, guys.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to complain because I know that winter is going to be cold. So I'm just going to love the wonderful weather we have right now. I just need to urgently find a pool.
Exactly.
So, Craig, last week we reviewed some of the key trends and highlights in Kantar's Media 2024 Media Trends and Predictions Report. What are we going to be discussing for today's conversation?
Yeah, Kevin, so firstly, I just want to remind our readers what we're doing over the course of the years. We're doing a month of marketing communications brand topics, and then we flip into a month of leadership coaching development topics, and then we alternate. So we're getting a nice mix, and it also just allows us to bring different kinds of guests into the conversation as well. So with that said, I want to firstly discuss a really great article that you posted on LinkedIn. And there were some key highlight points that jumped out at me on current leadership trends. And it was particularly in reading this article of yours that the concept of adaptive leadership really was the most important thing there. So I decided to go and do a little bit more research to see what we could chat about in respect of adaptive leadership. And I came across another great report, this time from Forbes.com, titled The Top 5 Leadership Trends That Will Drive Success in 2024. This article was written by Ben Gleason, a former Forbes contributor, and it was published to Forbes.com on the 2nd of January this year. But before we go into the trends that he describes there, I really want to just pick up and spend a few minutes reflecting over your article, and let's just discuss some of the trends that you've listed here. For the listeners, article on LinkedIn is titled Leadership Trends Right Now, published by Kevin, written and published by Kevin Britz himself. And the first trend that you reference is remote and hybrid leadership. And that in terms of adaptive leadership were the two key linkages in it, because adaptive leadership really needs to be demonstrated when applying remote and hybrid leadership. So what were your thoughts around the remote and leadership proposition? Yeah.
Well, Craig, what I think is really important for this is, it comes off the Wings concept and book, The Future of Work is Human, is, really understanding the core primary skills of what leadership really and work environment really is edging towards. And one of them specifically, noticeably, and I mean, you're currently working on a really nice campaign and specifically with leaders and decision makers that is really tapping into what the future sort of holds for a brand.
Yes.
I've just come off the back of also working with a really big brand of South Africa. And also tapping into those, because they all positioned all over the country. So, you kind of go, okay, how do you lead this entire brand, even though you're all from I think about 10 different areas in and around South Africa and Lesotho and African countries. So they're all flying into Johannesburg, but yet they're still working on one brand. And I think that remote and hybrid, it's if you look at some of the European countries that really do this well already, and I mean you know this because you work so often at an international platform and stage.
Yes.
The importance of being able to be remote and hybrid and have that flexibility, and I think that's lends itself to that agility part, is one of the facts of what we're doing in work environments right now. Is we have to be agile enough to know and to recognize the ability as leaders to kind of go, Yeah, sometimes we're going to be working remote. Sometimes you're going to be working in the office, but you have to be agile enough and, acutely aware of the fact that you're malleable and changeable with uh, your environment and how the scene is set, right? And I think that's why it's so important to really understand that it's not going to go away. We're not just quickly going to go back to a working in person kind of approach. We simply are, working in this hybrid kind of fashion, and the quicker we adapt to that, the easier for for your business.
There's a really important word in the article, but particularly in this trend here, and it's communication. So it talks about leveraging technology for communication, and I think that without the right technology in place, the enablement of remote and hybrid leadership, even remote and hybrid working, is really going to be compromised. And it's ensuring that the investment in technologies are resolute and really understanding what technology can do to ensure this constant connection capability with staff around the world, wherever they may be.
Yeah, and to your point, it's like, one of the recent conversations I had with an executive is, if you're not sure about if you're communicating well enough, just over communicate yourself. Make sure that people absolutely 100% understand what the boundary is, what the expectation is, where you're coming from. Because if you're not over communicating yourself, you're assuming and you're living a true assumption. And that's gonna trip you up, or it's gonna irritate you, one of the two. So yeah, communication is key.
Yes, there's a lovely segue into your second point here, which is the emphasis around emotional intelligence, and I think this is possibly quite a difficult proposition for current leaders, because when you understand the need to really engage with millennials and Gen Z in the way that they expect you to engage with them, but also in a way that actually brings them to their best, is that who is bringing the insights and capability to current leaders to understand their ever-changing needs, wants, desires, and expectations of an organization?
Yeah, and Craig, I mean, like, I'm not on TikTok because I've got spare things to do with my time. But I'm on TikTok because I know that a whole bunch of coaching executives that I coach may probably and willingly be on TikTok as they scrolling in bed at night. So
yes,
it's not like I'm creating video content because I have nothing to do with my time. It's very intentional to kind of go, where are the up and coming decision makers and people who are finding themselves in a certain environment, and as an emotionally intelligent leader, you've got to go, okay, cool. What am I seeing? What are the trends that are starting to happen in the world? And factually, like we've spoken about so many times already, we know that the millennials and Gen Zers are moving up in the ranks quite ferociously. So, and that's like, you've got to learn to appeal to that. And if you don't, you're going to be left behind.
Yeah, and the sentiment in ferociously in this instance isn't entirely negative. Yeah. But again, I don't know if this was intentional in the way that you structured the trend here, but there's a beautiful segue again into the third point, third trend, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion, because an intellectually self-aware, intelligent leader is definitely going to be positioned to easily migrate into the pure expectation and understanding of delivering what the business needs from a DEI point of view.
Well, and that's exactly the connection, Craig, because you cannot, and we know that, like, we've discussed this for the last 3 years already, like, you cannot lead an environment when you are not considering that your self-awareness and how quickly we step into our own biases and how quickly we tend to trip over our own blind spots, based on the fact that I'm simply not self-aware enough of, leading a large team or a large sector of business, and I'm not considering that, they're not all made up of the same person.
Yes.
They're not made up of the same values or the same skin color or the same qualities or the same any of that. when you look at rich, diverse, very healthy businesses, they are all very diverse and very inclusive in their approaches to solutions. And it's just simply, it's not a tick box exercise anymore. If you're looking at your team and they all look the same, or they all look like you're absolutely 100% losing out on a big sector of what the world looks like, because that is not what the world looks like.
Yes, yes.
So really having self-awareness.
So taking the concept of what the world looks like into the next trend, which is purpose-driven leadership. Yeah. So if there isn't an inherent understanding, absolute clear understanding of what this world looks like, there's no way that the leaders will be able to deliver against the proposition of purpose-driven leadership. And Kevin, yeah, it's not just about social responsibility. It's very much around sustainability, social responsibility for people, for planet, for communities, for countries, for all of the aspects that you reference in your trend here. But really, it's about stepping back again, looking at the mirror and asking the big why question. And when the why question's answered effectively, then the delivery of purpose-driven leadership is just the default de facto practice.
I mean, and with the current project that you're working on, Craig, you can testify for that, right? You can testify to what is the absolute purpose of what we're doing here, and answering that why question. And when you're kind of not when you're flippant about it, or maybe casually kind of like, well, I think that's what it is, you lose a whole bunch of people. But when there's an absolute purpose of kind of going, okay, this is why I do what I do, this is why we're doing it, it changes the scenario, it changes the way what the communication is, how you deliver your leadership, how you approach your business and your clients, and it sort of filters.
And when you get the concept right, when the intention, the why, and what it stands for and how it's going to be delivered, when you get that right, it's just this beautiful automatic process where everybody is drawn along the journey with you. And then you don't need to lead. You just, you're a mentor, you're cascading down into the organization, you're bringing more people collectively together on the journey that they all see and all believe in. Kevin, the fifth trend you talk about here is digital transformation. And obviously I mentioned in the opening piece the likes of technology as an enabler for effective communication. Digital transformation is part and parcel of that enablement, but it goes beyond that. It's to the point of understanding what digital transformation means for the business as a whole, but also what it means for society and the environment that that business is operating in.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that we are speaking about this today, because just recently in the last week, I've actually spoken to a client that it's a financial services client, and the head of operations, chief operating officer, came across a platform that really streamlines what is happening in the business and how to track what everyone's doing in the business, right? It's Monday.com, and when you hear it from his perspective like that, you kind of go, that is exactly what. And he got such sort of resistance in his environment about, why do we have to do this? Why are we doing this whole platform? Everybody now needs to train. But a year later, he can literally click on a button and show you the trajectory of his business in stat formation, and look at it and go, well, we're paying our claims within 5 days.
That's fantastic.
And you kind of go, well, when you start leaning into what digital transformation can do for your business, you're doing yourself a favor. And there's so much evidence to prove that streamlining, it comes back to the Wings concept about attention management, right? How much attention does this need? And can I streamline it quick enough to actually get this done? Can I delegate, defer, or delete what I'm doing? If you lean into the digital transformation of what digital can offer, and AI for that matter can offer, streamlining your business, you're going to lead the pack.
And Kevin, that the work that I'm doing in the whole employee value proposition, employee brand space, when you have got the technology layers in place and you're actually able to use the information to see the dashboard and what the sentiment of the business is at any one time as well. You have the chance to trigger those early indicators to say, hey guys, there's a problem in this area, or really we're actually on a wonderful growth curve of happiness and whatever the other aspects is that you're trying to measure and articulate, and that is really feeding into the great culture that we're establishing in the business, et cetera, et cetera. So the ability to tap into technology through digital transformation to help you see the business in real time, to make decisive decisions, to be effective for your business, your people, and the clients that you serve.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then into the magic word, or at least the concept that really threw me into the article, that of adaptive leadership. Just being able to understand the changing dynamics of economics, world politics, all of the other uncertainties that leaders, well, not just leaders, but organizations are faced with on a daily basis, is how leaders are geared or trained to be able to deliver effectively in a flexible, continuous learning kind of a way.
Yeah, I mean, just reading that, it's leadership evolution at its best. I was going to say baby, but I was like, okay, no, don't be, that's just weird. But it's leadership evolution at its best, because, when you take adaptability into consideration, all of these other points kind of start streamlining into, how adaptable and adaptive are you in your own leadership capacity and style. And those that work in your environment, or those who are in your leadership decision-making positions, you kind of go, are they adaptive enough? Are they jumping on board? Are they sort of joining the pack to kind of go, yeah, we're adaptive. Yeah, we can change. Yeah, we can move. Because it's also that, I think highlighting and showcasing, what the Wings concept is wanting to share, is to kind of go, guys, as an adaptive leader, you must consider the fact that what does that mean for human evolution and human intelligence? And I don't think we even have that conversation enough.
Yes.
We don't give ourselves enough credit as humans to kind of go, actually, we are pretty adaptive. And we've lived through the pandemic, like people are pretty darn, adaptive when they need to be. And we saw the trajectory of how quickly people got on board with adapting to the new way of living. So it's ability.
And one of the key drivers in that adaptation was the concept of well-being, and well-being really, became quite a highlight point around the need for remote work, people having to, quarantined, working from home, etc. But then also being presented with many more pressures of not engaging with your colleagues face to face, the fact that you almost in an always on environment through technology, and the demands are just increasing, pressures are increasing on a continuous basis. The ability to balance that through the adaptability quotient is the remote work and well-being aspect, and leadership being able to see the dashboard of their business that's telling them whether they have a healthy business, whether there's challenges with work-life business, or whether their folk are all ready to fall over, suffering from burnout and mental health.
Yeah. And Craig, and I think part of this conversation lends itself to mindset in a big way. And the reason for that is, for your staff to have well-being, you also have to understand that they're also human.
Yes.
Which means they also have hopes and dreams and lives, and they get sick and they don't feel well. And can you, are you leading well enough to kind of go, okay, I know we have to get this done, but let me just take a step back and kind of go, okay, so if this was me, how would I feel? And how would I respond? And how would I want someone to respond to me feeling sick or not feeling great, right? And because it's so easy to kind of go, yeah, but we have this deadline, yeah, but we have to get to this thing. But when you, again, self-awareness and adaptability, when you get back to that, you kind of go, okay, let me just for a second see this person as a human, and not as, get this done because I'm paying you per hour or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a whole mental intention.
Now, a lot of what I've been referencing really talks around the technologies and the digital innovation likes, which actually leads into this whole data-driven decision making. So when you are able to see not just the sentiment or temperature of the internal organization, it's about how to effectively respond to the data and insights that you're gaining from your competitors, or at least around your competitors, around the sector, around the region you're playing in, around the product innovation pipeline, all of those things. So it's essential to ensure that effective technologies and digital enablement is in place to deliver the usable data set, but then you also have a team that's actually able to interrogate that data to bring you insights to help you be more effective in your decision making moving forward.
But also, Craig, this is a conversation you and I had previously on the importance of how markets and agencies are driving campaigns based on the data that they receive.
Yes.
And
yes.
How, because people are actually starting to pay attention to certain types of data, they understand that they might be missing a segment of their audience, right? And every time I speak to a CEO, every time I speak to a head of a sales department, data is one of the highest priorities. It's like, do we have the right data? Do we have the correct information? Do we know what it is we're talking about and how to use that and torture and kind of unpack the data to the degree to kind of go, let's make sense of this? Because when you go to that degree with taking data into consideration, you can, that's what I say, we almost like we're living in a simulation because
no, and again, to that point, the one thing I always say is that when you look at the investment of time, energy, and resources for organizations to understand how to externally position themselves, how to really draw in, from the marketplace into the business, when you take that same level of energy and actually project it into the business to really get to understand the impact of your leadership style on the business and what you need to be doing to fix the business.
Exactly, yeah.
That leads to agile methodologies and agile leadership. Again, when the data is in place and you're going to make critical decisions in real time, you have to be able to understand adaptability and deliver agile leadership, Kevin, which again, not everyone is able to think and deliver effectively in an agile way. There are some leaders that are quite structured and rigorous in their approach, and some of those organizations may well be left behind because technology, speed of change, speed of thinking, and speed of delivery really needs to keep you on your toes.
And also, Craig, when you look at agile, the process of agile, and you inspect it, it's very similar to the approach of ADKAR and ProSci. When you see those models and methodologies that they use, it is very specifically people orientated, right? And people kind of read agile and go, oh yeah, I know we need to follow the system and get the system in place. And it's yes, there are systems that need unpacking, absolutely. But very specifically, change to really work well.
Yeah.
It's a people-orientated change and implementation that's need, and very often people get that sort of gray area, then they don't see it as valuable or as important.
And the reference to people and change is critically important, because the last point of your trends article here talks about leadership development. And this is one area where often the organization is focusing on the middle management aspect and then cascading it down and really ensuring that the growth is a bottom-up approach, which is fantastic, and it's a great approach. But leadership development is absolutely essential in being able to address all of the other 9 trends that we've covered in this portion of the conversation.
And the reason why it's there, Craig, is because I work with very big brands currently that do not have succession planning in place. They don't. It's not happening. And you kind of go at that level. You would assume that you do, right? And you kind of go, that's a problem, guys. And what happens is you don't develop the very people you've been working with for the last 10 years. You rather go, oh no, that oak there seems really cool. and you go and, you know, steal them from another brand, or you use someone else, and you kind of go, that's great, but like, are you even focused on how you as a leader are creating leaders? Because if you're not doing that, you're not a great leader.
That is absolutely correct. 100% agree with that. Yep.
Yeah.
So jumping from your article then into the wonderful Forbes.com article, again referencing the title, "The Top 5 Leadership Trends That Will Drive Success in 2024, Kevin. The article, as I mentioned, was written by Brett Gleason, but also co-authored with Michael Lenig, who is a retired Navy SEAL officer and vice president of programs at Talking Point Leadership. And the article was written from his perspective. And you know what, you couldn't get anybody more understanding of the principles of leadership than somebody who's been, you know, as a Navy SEAL officer, because the principles of leadership are just embedded into every single breath they take and decision they make, Kevin.
Yeah.
But there's a wonderful paragraph that opens here, and it states that embrace the currents of leadership trends, for in their evolution lies the compass to navigate the ever-changing landscape of success. Beautiful, beautiful piece.
And I think that currents is a beautiful way of, you know, descriptor of that, because sometimes going with the current and it feels really good and it's great, but sometimes, you know, you're against the current and you kind of go, okay, this is totally swimming upstream, and sometimes you're gonna have to swim upstream. It's just like, how well do you swim in that moment, right?
But again, if you understand the data-driven decisions, and if the data is telling you need to swim upstream for a period of time, well then preparing you for it is a critical factor. The reality here, Kevin, is, you know, and he references the fact that leadership landscape is in a continuous state of evolution at the moment, based on, you know, dynamic global technology and societal changes on a daily basis. And therefore leaders are definitely facing these unprecedented challenges, but at the same time there are opportunities, and this is now prompting the emergence of key trends that are shaping leadership methodologies and practices, not just shaping thinking, but actually the delivery and methodology within the organization. So the key talking point here is the trends that he opens out with is the one that really resonated with me, at least for me, from your article, is actual adaptive leadership. And yeah, it's the skill of leading in unpredictable and ever-changing environments, and this is expected to remain the most prominent trend from his point of view. And the SEAL teams are actually positioned and mentored and nurtured to excel in operating within these dynamic and uncertain settings. And if you understand what the SEAL teams do, well, it's absolutely paramount that they're able to deal with it, because the decision 1 second later could be fundamentally different, and the outcome of that could be fundamentally different. So it's really, adaptive leadership is critical and crucial for them to navigate the whole VUCA world that we're living in, you know. And again, for listeners, the volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous world that we're living in, not just today, but yeah, into the future. And being able to understand those conditions and gearing yourself the adaptability and flexibility to make those quick decisions, and the ability to adjust plans in real time during missions is something that needs to be brought into leadership, Kevin. And successfully steering the teams through these ongoing challenges in those different environments really requires making an extensive amount of agile decisions, but then, as he notes, fostering a culture of continuous learning and adaptability. And again, that talks to the last point in your trends there, Kevin.
Yeah, you know, Craig, I'm just looking at the article now. So, you know, embracing change as part of a subset to this, and adaptability, it really does, right? And if we look at the rate at what things are changing, and the rate at, you know, how things are exponentially moving, if you're not embracing the change, it's either gonna, you know, it's either gonna like steer you off course, or it's gonna create a whole bunch of frustration. I mean, and I think I've mentioned it to you before. The one as an NLP presupposition in
Yes.
they speak about the person with the most ability and flexibility in choices and behavior rules the system, right? And it's called the law of requisite variety. And if you understand just that simple concept of going, what is my choices and what is my behavior right now, and how flexible am I in my choices and my behavior? If you don't have that under control, you do not rule the system. So when you hear it from that perspective, you kind of go, hell yeah, I really need to get my choices and behavior under control as quickly as possible, because if something happens that I didn't plan for, I'm going to be screwed pretty much.
Yes.
So immediately, and that also speaks to your flexibility, your agility, and your learning orientation, and all of these aspects that require you to be a wonderful, great leader. How good are you at flexing that agility muscle? And if you're not, you're going to be frustrated and angry a lot.
And as long as there's a constant feed of information back into the organization that helps you make these decisions, that helps you look at the mirror, look into the mirror every morning at work, and just really get to understand where you are relative to the previous day and decisions made, and where you need to be the next day and decisions made. So, Kevin, I want to quote the next paragraph, because coming out of the concept of the whole adaptive leadership style, he talks about 3 or 4 points that enable organizations to do this. But the sort of the context here is noted as the following. In the business realm, adaptive leadership represents an approach that emphasizes the capability to thrive in dynamic, complex, and constantly evolving environments. As markets, technologies, and global landscape transform, adaptive leaders distinguish themselves by skillfully responding to uncertainty, leading skillfully, leading through change, and guiding the organizations towards success. And he highlights the following 3 points as mechanisms to enable this effective style. So the first point is embrace change. Adaptive leaders recognize that change is a constant and inevitable. Rather than resisting change, they embrace it, viewing challenges and as opportunities for growth and innovation. These leaders create a culture where adaptability is valued and employees are encouraged to contribute ideas for improvement.
Yeah, Craig, and I totally lost my train of thought now. You were like saying something, but essentially that back to the law of requisite variety. And yes, I know. It comes back to radical acceptance, right? There's a beautiful psychological premise that psychologists speak about, is really looking at the present moment, and to really get over whatever it is you're on is consider radical acceptance of what happened has happened, right? Until it happened, you had no control over it. So it's happened, and the quicker you get to radical acceptance by embracing the change, you suddenly move past what the fear and the loss and the hurt and the anger and all that stuff that you're holding on to is, and suddenly you're on the other side, and it's not comfortable, but at least you're on the other side of going, okay, cool, what is my quickest, best, agile move here?
Yes.
And because you radically accepted it, you're far more unattached to the emotion that's holding you in the moment. And that's why embracing the change is far easier than kind of going, okay, I don't want this, or, this isn't working for me. Radically accept it, and it just embraces change far quicker.
The second point is flexibility and agility, and that comes with making the decisions quicker. Adaptive leaders exhibit flexibility and agility in decision-making and problem solving. They are willing to adjust strategies and tactics as circumstances evolve. This requires a mindset open to new information and a willingness to pivot when necessary.
Yeah.
The third point to enable this leadership style is learning orientation. So adaptive leaders foster a learning orientation within their teams and organization. They encourage continuous learning and the development of new skills, recognizing and staying ahead in a rapidly changing business landscape, as this requires ongoing education and adaptation.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it comes to that old sentiment, like you're never too old to learn anything, right?
Yes.
And you and I both, like we really thrive in what we do and we're really passionate about, but we both, come back every week talking about new things, and you kind of go, wow, I didn't hear that, I didn't know that, I didn't see that before. So learning approach, and you're creating a culture of learning. I think that in 10 years from now, hopefully that businesses have a learning day for business. So, everyone is in the motion of learning, and it becomes part of the culture of that organization, because the day that happens, I think businesses are going to thrive tenfold, because
Yes.
learning in itself creates critical thinking, creativity, social intelligence. There's so many things that it sort of taps into. So, I absolutely love this.
The second trend he references in the article is emphasis on emotional intelligence. So, moving from the IQ to the EQ quotient. So, emphasizing the significance of emotional intelligence is definitely become increasingly crucial in modern leadership and organizational setting, Kevin. And leaders who can effectively understand and manage their emotions are definitely better positioned to foster more positive team dynamics, promote collaboration, and navigate those complex interpersonal relationships in the organization. And in the realm of leadership, placing strong emphasis on emotional intelligence is acknowledged as fundamental aspect in cultivating this positive workplace culture, and achieving a long pipeline of endured success. And again, there's a few areas that actually, in this instance, three again, that really, when you practice these areas around the principle of emotional intelligence, you definitely going to see success. And the first area is about self-awareness and self-regulation, and this is something that you speak about often, and I love the concept here. It's about leaders with strong emotional intelligence have a heightened sense of self-awareness, and they understand their emotions, strengths, and weaknesses, enabling them to regulate their reaction and make sound decisions, even in challenging situations.
Yeah, Craig, I always come back to one sentiment when it comes to self-awareness, and because very often, and it speaks to bias, it speaks to anger, it speaks to emotions, it speaks to triggers, whatever you're going through, right? The moment you become curious about it, your brain changes from a judgment to a curiosity. And the moment you move to curiosity, you are immediately self-aware, right?
I like that.
Just embrace the curiosity about it, because the moment you're doing that, you're self-aware, and you're kind of going, oh wow, why am I judging this so harsh? Or why does that person irritate me so much? Or why is this circumstance so detrimental? And the moment you kind of go, okay, let me become curious about my response to what's happening, you change the meaning of the actual response you're having.
Just totally off the topic, the minute you used the word curiosity, it made me think of the band Curiosity Killed the Cat. And if you remember that from decades ago, an overzealous, overcurious cat went past its 9 lives, The second subset in achieving being able to deliver in the practice of emotional intelligence here is interpersonal effectiveness, and leaders with high emotional intelligence excel in interpersonal relationships, Kevin. They're adept at understanding the emotions of others and fostering positive communications re-emphasized there again, and they build strong connections with team members, colleagues, and stakeholders.
Yeah, I think what's nice about that point, just quickly, Craig, is interpersonal effectiveness, right? And that requires you to be really effective at other people as well, right? It's not just be an effective personal kind of person. It's how really effective in your interpersonal engagement with people. If that's not great, and someone brought it to my attention just recently, is what are people saying about you at the dinner table? I was like, it's exactly the point. If they're saying good things, then you're probably doing something great, right? And if they aren't, you probably need to check yourself.
And if you aren't, well, then you need to focus on the next point of the subset, which is decision-making. Emotional intelligence informs decision-making by incorporating an understanding of the emotional implication of choices. And leaders who consider both the rational and emotional aspects of decision definitely in a better position to make choices that actually resonate positively with their teams, Kevin.
absolutely.
Yeah, and then just, I'll just touch on what the other trends are. So purpose-driven leadership, which is focusing around the ability to understand mission-centric approach, having the long-term vision for the organization, and leader really understanding values alignment. Then there's remote leadership skills, and that's very much around effective communication, again, communication, fostering team cohesion, and training and skills development, which is investing in professional development again. And finally, you have technology and data literacy. Can't overemphasize the impact and importance of those two concepts in an organization. And it's really about tapping into the accelerated digital transformation, ensuring that you're in tune with data-driven decision-making at scale, and really working towards the integration of emerging technologies and implementing and understanding advanced automation and AI integration across the organization, Kevin.
Yeah, and Craig, I mean, what's nice about the two articles, I think they lend itself and they speak to each other so well, and some of it's actually duplication, and I like that there's some emphasis on it, because you can really see how these are kind of key critical skills and trends really happening in leadership as a thought process, and and a positioning that you hold as leaders.
And for leaders and prospective leaders to be able to look at both articles and really see that interlink between the content, but also use that as the mirror to go, actually, organizationally, we don't have these aspects. What do we need to do to get there? Me, and from a personal leadership point of view, I'm not achieving in these areas. What do I need to do there? And bring that into the leadership team and help that inform better decision making, and guiding the business to be more effective, more successful, more sustainable, and better for the people.
Absolutely, I love that, Craig. As you can see, I'll get caught up, and I love talking about leadership and all of this stuff. But guys, so if you want to, we're going to be chatting. We're going to sort of alternate as Craig was saying in the beginning of the show. Please remember to like, share, and tune in to the Lunchtime Series every week, every Wednesday and Thursday, for more from myself and Craig. But before I've almost forgot to give our QOT, which is our quote of the day. When I saw this, I was like, I know you're going to love it, irrelevant of what we're talking about today. I learned the courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. And that was Nelson Mandela.
Oh, wow. That's a beautiful quote. Yep.
It
really is. Absolutely stunning.
Craig, guys, from me and Craig, thank you so much, Craig, and we will chat to you next week.
Yeah, looking forward to that, Kevin. Have a good week ahead.
Fantastic, Craig.